Good evening, everyone. From the budget cuts, NASA's lost about 4,000 good people. Where do you think they're going to go? We're going to talk about that. Goldman Sachs predicts the global satellite market is going to grow by a factor of 7. That's starting to get a little worrisome. Orion Space secures some B round funding. We'll talk about that. Um, Ted Cruz reminds us just why they call it the Senate launch system. More arguments why we need to beat China to the moon. Space Command and 30,000 jobs supposedly are moving from Colorado to Huntsville, Alabama, but Colorado is pushing back. And a company named Interloon is racing to be the first to mine helium-3 from the moon. All that and our guest, Mordy Friedman, coming up. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do we do? Well, of course, as many of you should know by now, we champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor ready. That's kind of important. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by listeners and fans like you. So if you just go to cscf.space/support and click that Plainest Day donate button, a little in the tip jar each month makes a big difference. Welcome now, my longest space friend, space elevator cult leader, and he swears the peyote is worn off this time, Michael Lane. Maybe it didn't. There he is.
Nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening.
Good. Okay, I said, I'm here. Nothing's happening.
That's unusual. Usually all sorts of things are happening.
I wasn't able to keep on. Yeah, no. How's things? How are you? What's going on?
I'm okay. I'm getting ready for this big thing. I've got a huge most of next week. I've got this thing planned. I got a big marketing workshop that I'm doing, and it's followed up by a short conference immediately afterward. Same people, and so I'm pitching the center the whole time. Yeah. I'm going to be buried.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with me. Awesome. I just finished the last of my requirements.
IAC right after that. Oh, good.
Yeah, it's coming up. Well, SGC and IAC, both. I'll be talking about that a little bit later after the end of the news. But yeah. All righty.
Tell me a little bit about SGC, just so we've got the...
Oh, you want me to start with that first? Okay. Space Generation Advisory Council. They have 30,000 members around the world, but they also are doing a conference every year just prior to the International Astronautical Congress. And this year, of course, their Space Generation Congress is in Sydney, Australia. And actually, we are, the center is involved with them. We're going to be doing an elevator pitch competition on the 25th of September. And there's still room to apply if you're going to go there. If you're within the sound of my voice and you're going to Sydney for Space Generation Congress, and you want to make an elevator pitch and maybe win $1,000, because we're giving away at least 3 $1,000 cash prizes, no strings, like our micro grant program. And we're going to be doing that right there on the stage in front of everybody. So if you're thinking about going there, and you don't have to be a delegate to that conference to attend and to participate. So you just have to have the interesting space idea, business idea, and you have to be 35 or under, and that's it. And be present to win. So So I'm not see. I wish I could see the link on the side there. I'm not seeing anything, but the link. How do I read this out? It is.
I'm getting it right.
cscf.space/nsbpc-application.
NS.
Well, you click there, you just click on a link. So there it is. That's what I'm looking for.
There
the host,
it is.
Our host just put it up.
For those
Thank
people
you,
that want to.
I just want to have that for you. Yep. Okay.
It's the CF, Center for Space Commerce and Finance Space.
Yep.
Yeah, we are. NSBPC, New Space Business Plan Competition - application. So
that's it.
Hard to pronounce. CSCF space / NSBPC - application.
For all our friends
rolls
on
right
Spotify.
off the tongue. Rolls right off the tongue.
That's it. It just rolls off the tongue like everything else does. Yes, thanks so much. Okay. Yep. It's in the chat. Moving on. Moving on. We should start with some. Okay, so NASA budget cut 4,000 people. We have a link to this article. Where will they go? And so the White House space realignment disturbs a delicate ecosystem, they say. And so, and there's a lot of people kind of, well, they didn't leave early. I mean, they right in the very first of the article, this woman named Jennifer Mason said, I worked there for 36 years and I decided to retire. She probably wouldn't have, but she decided to retire because she feels that the current administration does not value science or federal employees at all. And there are, of course, thousands of people leaving right now, not just the U.S. Space Agency, but all over the place, as they're tied into NASA. But she was a technology manager for Gateway, and so and Gateway is up and down for in terms of funding. We're not sure how that's going to go, and so they're going through a riff. About 4,000 people have taken DRP offers, and so the question becomes, where do they go now that they're gone or leaving? Some will probably find jobs in private sector, aerospace, defense, or university research. They may move into other fields. They may retire early, but no one's quite sure what the breakdown is going to be or are willing to talk about it publicly. And one source said the good data is really actually hard to come by. And so that's interesting. Because I remember, I don't know what's going to happen in the private sector. I know years ago, not just, last week, but like maybe, 8-10 years ago, Elon Musk was saying, he wasn't going to hire former NASA guys that were, longer in the tooth. He just wasn't going to do it. He thought they were bringing old habits with them. And he was trying to really shake things up organizationally.
Right. He's kind of famous for that. And I've talked to other industry people. They kind of tend to feel the same way because, if you look at Axiom, that deck is stacked very heavy of old NASA folks, retired NASA folks, and they're struggling, right? They've spent through a lot of money. We've reported on that 2 or 3 times that they've spent a lot of money. They haven't produced as much as private industry usually wants to produce. And so there is a real question about whether they fit in the industry. And this article comments about how industry is paying about half or 60% of what the federal government was paying. So,
industry salaries.
Yeah,
they said that Quinn Space Foundation industry salaries were double the rest of the private sector economy.
I'm sorry, I did. I said that backwards.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
Industry salaries.
Industry is paying double what the government is.
Compared to average salary nationwide, it's not even the government.
Right.
It's just the private sector economy.
Yeah.
Space people are making a lot more money than the average Joe out there.
Yeah. But there is
31K compared to 72. And so and that really also doubles the question: where are they going to go?
Yeah, well,
they're using a certain amount.
In Washington State, we've got a guy who regularly tracks the job market here in the space sector, Stan Schull, and he just reported just 2 days ago, Washington State has 1,300 open job offers. Wow. Open offers at major corporations, major space companies. Yeah, that includes some of the Boeings, but it's Blue Origin, it's SpaceX, it's Amazon Kuiper's system, it's Starfish and True Anomaly. I mean, companies with real headcounts, real paychecks, and they can't fill all the roles. So my hope is that this isn't bad news for these NASA people, but if you're a Beltway bandit and you're in Washington D.C., are you going to move to the other Washington? I mean, we'd welcome you, but that's a big culture shock.
Right, because with the restored funding, especially for SLS,
restored funding
for SLS.
Right.
No one's going to be leaving. No one's going to be leaving Huntsville anytime soon.
Nope.
That might be a good thing at this point. You don't want them rushing to Seattle as fast as they can. Yeah.
I talked to somebody that got doged just this afternoon. One of those 4,000 people just 3 hours ago. She's considering moving to Europe. One of the NASA people, it's like, I don't really fit in the private industry. This isn't really my jam. I do it for, the love of service, right? That's my role. I want to give back. This is somebody who went to the Naval Academy, and she did the Peace Corps, and she's all about service.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm not going to go to private industry. I don't want to do it. So she's thinking about going to Europe, which I would thought was a big shock, actually. But there's going to be some interesting people leaving here pretty soon or have left now. So curious to see what happens next.
Right.
And maybe they'll get to Huntsville, Alabama, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Well, next thing coming up, this is a quick one. I guess Goldman Sachs analyst just printed something saying they think that the number of satellites, constellations, and everything, and non-constellations even, getting up into orbit is going to grow by a factor of 7.
Yeah. Forecast
by 2035, I think they said it was.
Yep. 10 years.
35. Yep. There's this interesting chart on there too. It just shows it really easy. The base case, the bull case, which is huge, and the blue sky could be 400 billion.
$500 billion of revenue from satellites.
Just for that.
That's
just
bonkers.
For that. LeoSats.
Now that's their blue sky numbers, so I'm really going to bet on that. I was a little surprised. So this article came out actually March 5th, 2025. So I didn't see it until yesterday.
Right.
But I did actually make, there's 2 things in here that were really interesting to me. One, the industry has been talking about 40,000 satellites, and this one jumps it up by 13,000 more.
Right.
So 53.
And it's just it's pretty it was scary at 40.
That's a lot than I had.
Michael, you're breaking down, man.
It was scary at 40. There's litigate your position. And so at the end of this article, they said something I thought was particularly interesting, that 3 different Chinese mega constellations of 10,000 or more satellites, 3 different constellations of 10,000 or more mega constellations, and that they want to win this by just submitting applications to the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, as claiming position and bandwidth and spectrum, and that felt a little bit like lawfare. It did, but yeah, that's 3 separate constellations coming out of China itself, which I was very surprised at.
Yeah. Well, let's move. Speaking of China, the next thing coming up,
Yep.
I didn't realize until I looked at it again. There's a startup, private sector commercial launch startup called Orion Space.
Right.
And they just secured some B+ round funding. And I didn't realize they were a Chinese company.
Chinese company, yeah.
A Chinese commercial rocket company. They've raised tens of millions in Series B financing. And they're moving towards a key test. So that's what their Chinese language Taibo network reported. They'll be doing comprehensive ground verification tests for their Gravity 2. And hopefully they're going to have their first test flight by the end of this year. But this is wild because this is part of the other reporting standard, I guess. They secured funding between 27 and 124 million.
Right. We don't actually know.
Somewhere between there, the truth lies.
Right.
I'm suggesting probably closer to 27.
Right.
Just a wild ass guess.
I do wonder. I followed this up a little bit. I don't have the link in here, but their CEO actually quit the company after this and is jumping into an AI startup, which I don't understand that move at all, but apparently that's a thing. There was a little bit of political pressure is the way I'm interpreting that.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, this is, how do you define a commercial company? Is this state sponsorship? I mean, it looks like state sponsorship.
Yeah, I understand it. It's another form of fascism. It's whatever you call it, state supported this. They will have, if not a political officer, probably just more like a couple of representatives of Xi's government will be on their board of directors.
Right, absolutely.
Their board of advisors, watching everything very carefully.
So how different is that of our administration taking 10% of Intel in exchange for an $11 billion grant, which was approved during the prior administration?
Well, you know what, Michael?
Where's that line?
You're going to have to ask the other shareholders of Intel what they think about that. Right. And they should be asking their senior management, what the F are you thinking?
What the F are you thinking?
There's nothing under the law or any executive orders that requires this.
No,
I'm sure under the law in China, this is what has to happen.
Right.
So but not here.
Where's the line? The line is
there is a line. It's still a private company. It's still, a state.
No, I'm not talking about Intel. I totally agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
There's a line there. But at what point does one thing officially become a state-sponsored, state-supported organization versus, taking equity in exchange for a government grant?
It's all about. In the Intel case, Trump just put it there outright. They're getting 75% of their income. No, that was Lockheed Martin.
That was Lockheed Martin.
That was Lockheed Martin. 97% of their income was from the government. So what the hell, right?
Yeah,
that actually makes a twisted sort of sense in a Keynesian kind of way, but.
I didn't mean to bring up the whole can of worms that we talked about.
Right. Let's go on.
Let's move on. But I do think that the line between a government company and a company is surprisingly blurry. I didn't think we would be blurry.
Yeah.
All right. Let's spit. Well, here's another one that's a little blurry. Let's talk about Ted Cruz here for a second.
Oh, Ted! I had to bring it up because the whole thing sounded so funny. Ted Cruz is fighting for all this stuff, but really, when you read between the lines, he reminds us why it's called the Senate Launch System.
Right. hats
Well,
off
what
to
he's
Eric
going to have
Berger
the
for this
ability to
article.
play videos. Right.
Yeah.
And because remember, the people who fought for this, Bill Nelson, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, and Richard Shelby, they retired, they failed to win re-election, but Bill Nelson ended up being NASA administrator for a while, so he made sure he got his way during that 4-year period. But now the new champion is Ted Cruz. And he seems an unlikely hero. But here he is. And he was the one who crafted the provision into the bill, which included that $10 billion in kind of refunding for those key programs, and undermined the White House's own space policy goals.
Right. He's the one that rescued SLS a couple weeks ago.
And so, but I guess that's his. I guess that's what it's about for him. He's made it clear obviously, for me, he's made it clear his priorities are to beat China back to the moon. Okay, we'll be talking about that in a minute too, but because it's the same topic. But there's and he said we're in a space race and not playing by the same rules. He obviously, I don't think he has he doesn't have the faith in the private sector yet. And so we'll just overspend with this NASA stuff that we've known how to do for 60 years, and hope that fills the bill. So I don't know.
Well, it's it's such a stacked deck. Like, I thought the article at first, I only knew about this thing because Sean Mahoney was there, the president of the Space Frontier Foundation. He mentioned it in a LinkedIn post. So I went and followed the link, and I'm like, oh, this looks really good. This looks like a really good thing. And my first impressions without reading this article was, wow, all right, so people are paying attention. And then this quote at the very top, it talks about we need better than just window dressing. That quote is not a Ted Cruz quote. No. That quote is from Sean Mahoney at the very last paragraph, basically calling them out for watering down the vision of going and living on a sustainable moon. And so Mahoney wrote a long essay today about what was wrong with that hearing, and then also what we can kind of do better next time. But his quote at the bottom is brilliant. I'm going to read it. The topic of our country's strategy for competing for this new territory on the moon, not just for the first footprint, but for the longer term impact, is extremely important. We need better than just window dressing. We need honest, realistic discussion about the costs, the risks, and the alternatives. It's too important for this just to be something that gets a little bit of attention and then pushed through. And I think Mahoney's a good spokesman for the Space Frontier Foundation. He's been on our show. He's a clear advocate for the commercialization. I have a lot of respect for one of the people up on that panel, General Shaw, retired 3-star General Shaw. He's the guy who coined the phrase space domain awareness is different than space situational awareness. He's there. They had good speakers, but the deck definitely seemed like it was stacked.
Well, it was, because there's one that Dave Cavassa was supposed to be on there.
Yeah.
And he's president of the Commercial Space Federation. Now, he was uninvited at the last second.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we're going to do a future commercial space panel. Yeah, right. Well, so commercial space basically didn't really have a seat at the table. And they put Bridenstine up there, but Bridenstine is basically a lobbyist for a major contract, United Launch Alliance. He leads the government operations for ULA.
Right.
So he's another old space industry insider.
That's funny you say that, because we all had our disagreements about Bridenstine when he first came on board. And then I definitely became a true believer in Bridenstine. He definitely surprised me and turned some stuff around. But I was surprised that he was hanging with the Boeings and Lockmarts of the world. I was surprised by that. Yeah,
I know,
because he risked his career, as did General Bolden, the administration before. But the pair of them risked their careers on the commercial space sector, and they both won. So I was really surprised to see.
That was weird for me too, to see that.
Yeah.
I know that. That was strange.
Yeah.
And it gets stranger. So here's the deal. The next two are kind of back to back as well.
Yeah, sure.
Supposedly by executive order or whatever is going on, the Space Command is being moved to Huntsville. Supposedly, Space Command right now is in Colorado. He's going to move them all to Huntsville, and supposedly there's 30,000 jobs at stake here. And so, of course, the mayor of Huntsville is going, "Christmas finally came early, yay!" You know. And it's going to take some time.
I think it's really interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while to kind of move this. Go ahead.
Well. Anyway, it's going to take a while, but they're experiencing 12 to 1,600 direct jobs and some bunch of 3,000 spin-off jobs and a whole bunch of other things. And so they go on and on and on. This article about how these relocations, people enjoy living there, and Huntsville's kind of fun. I didn't. I wasn't sure about going there. I went there last year for something else, and it was like, this is kind of a cool place.
It's a good town. Yeah, it's a good town.
So it's a good town. Yeah. It is a good town. Great school. UH is a great school. It's a great school. But
Colorado.
Colorado.
They're talking about buying real estate now. Yeah, Colorado's pissed. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're absolutely
they're
pissed.
Talking about. Well, look, this was a political football from day one, and at first I was really skeptical of Alabama because it definitely felt like a political decision, and it's not supposed to be, but given the administration, how could it not be? And that was Trump won. That was Trump won. Given the administration, how could it not be? Because he's got a reputation for quid pro quo, tit for tat. Do something for me, I'll do something for you. He's very transactional. He's very transparent about being transactional. So it seemed like this was a transaction, and I was very against it in the beginning. And then I talked to. Remember how we've talked about blue versus brown on this show about the near shore of space is Leo, and then the deep ocean of space is the moon and beyond. I talked to some blue water space people, and they're like, as long as Space Force is in Colorado, we will always have a brown water Space Force. But if it moves to Alabama, not under the thumb of all of the Air Force generals,
Right.
It can become its own thing. And, I'm a single issue voter on some things. And I'm like, okay, checkbox. That's a good enough reason for me.
Yeah.
And he made a really good, and he made a really good point. And I want the Space Force to have independence from Air Force in the same way the Marine Corps, I'm a former U.S. Marine, has independence from the Navy. And I thought, that's a really good argument, because there are some really good thinkers, blue water space thinkers in Huntsville. And I'm like, you sold me on that. So pretty surprising. I did a 180. I did a very public 180 on that. But I do think it's a good move. And yes, I still think it's political, but I think in this case, it's actually going to be useful in the way that creating Space Force in the first place was political, but a good move nonetheless. So hats off to this one. I'm actually kind of excited about this. And yeah, anyway.
Yep. At this point, we're already overdue here, so I'm gonna save the last item for maybe next time, because it'll fit next time. I want to get our guest in here tonight, and so let's bring in our guest. Tonight is Mordy Friedman, and he's with Etheria Company, and he's doing what we call the Space Elevator Games Initiative, and he's going to fill us in about all the latest developments. Mordy, come on in.
Hey, how are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Right. So I guess a lot of things have happened since the last time you were here. Start filling us in. What's going on?
Yeah. So that was a while ago. Definitely a lot happened since. We're now officially WSpec. Is the name of the organization. We're a nonprofit, a global, just to give a quick recap on what we do. We're a nonprofit organization that's driving the technology development for the space elevator through focused competitions for university level students. You see our website in the corner there. And we host competitions for university teams around the world to develop these technologies further, building the step-by-step advancement to an eventual space elevator, which is the ultimate goal, to really bring the space economy and allow for a circular Earth and space economy to function, to be able to bring more value from space into Earth than we can send out there. We ultimately need a space elevator, and we understand that it's a long project, could be multi-generational, and doing it through competitions allows for us to get many different results, really figure out what's right, and allow for many different ideas to work all at once, and keep developing the concept further until we have the technology necessary to actually go and construct this. So a lot has happened since. Like I said, we're official. Now we're a real company. Growing. We've now a nice team, very talented people that are putting everything together, and we're launching the first. We had a table at the ISDC, which was our official launch. Mm-hmm. About that, we've also we're co-hosting the competitions in Japan in November, so we're actually going to be hosting the first competition in a few months as an organization. A lot happened. I guess we can get into it as we go, but yeah.
Okay. Have you thought? I know there's a lot of things going on. Have you thought of a venue yet? Have you settled on that?
So in Japan, we do have a venue that's the same venue as was last year for the competition coming up in November. For the U.S. competition, we haven't finalized on anything. Okay. For the few locations, we may split up. We are launching 2 competitions for next year. We may split them up, having the 2 locations. We put them as 1, but all still to be decided. So yeah.
Okay. Now, I guess this thing is it is a competition, so I guess there'll be key events. Like a climber or some other kind of thing. You're going to have how many different events do you think you're going to have, and how do you judge things like that?
Yeah. So the focus is to judge it. Just about judging is we need to judge it on facts. We can't judge it on opinion or anything, because it's very important that we make sure that it's an equal competition where anyone can win regardless of where they come from, and it has to do with what you develop and how good it actually is. And in terms of the competitions that we're launching right now, we're launching 2 competitions this year. We have the climber competition, where teams build robotic climbers to go up and down a vertical tether, which advances robotics. It's a very unique circumstance, allows for new spin-off technologies or more things to be developed around that, and also is simulating the key function of a space elevator, which opens up creativity and allows for new concepts around the idea as a whole to show themselves, right? We don't know what we don't know. So that's that competition. That has been going on. There's a history of that already happening. We have a lot of experience hosting that specific competition. And then next year, we're launching for the first time, it's WSpec, the power beaming competition, which is where teams design systems to beam power, which has applications here on Earth and obviously the space elevator. And the goal is to keep growing and increasing the technology level, and also increasing more categories within necessary technology for a space elevator
Okay.
to have that eventually. But a big focus for us as an organization functioning now is to make sure that the technology we develop has direct applications that can benefit people right now, because the timeline for the space elevator is unknown at the moment. So it's really important that we make sure that regardless of what happens with that, or regardless of how long it takes, technology can keep advancing and we're pushing things that really help the world.
Yeah. Well, I'll be interested in seeing the the upgrades in the technologies that have been happening since then. I think the last time I saw something like this was the X Prize Cup that I attended down in New Mexico. What, 2006 or 7 it
2005,
was?
2006, something like
Yeah,
that.
somewhere
Yeah.
around there. And I definitely saw the climber competition with the smoke and mirrors. That was a lot of fun. And judging that was pretty easy. Did you make it to the top? Yeah, and did you get there first? Yeah, you win.
You win.
The other kind of stuff we don't know, but there's got to be. I mean, is there going to be kind of an expo flavor to it as well? Because I'm sure folks are probably going to wait if there's an improvement in material science, for example, for the ribbon itself. These kinds of things. We were talking about carbon nanotubes 15 years ago, and now we're talking about other stuff. So there's going to be a way to show that off and say, well, this is what's changed since days of yore. A previous generation did this. Here's what we're doing now.
Yeah, the goal is definitely to have that, to turn this event into a real collaborative effort where we have different ideas from in a lot of different industries all coming together with this one goal, the one focus. And that's obviously, as we grow, that's a big part of how we function. We need to create more value as an organization than we consume to function. So it's important that for us to be sustainable in the long run as a separately run organization, that the things that we do through these competitions or through the development of these technologies can practically give real value to our sponsors, to our partners, and visible enough to get people interested.
Yeah. So is there any, do you expect that of the folks, entering things into the competition, is this stuff investor ready yet? Is it worth it for investors? Since we were showing about money too in space, what should potential angel investors be showing up to this thing first time out?
100%. There have been already some spin-off technology, some companies that have been created with some of the Japanese competitions that have actually taken on. And obviously, you see with the X Prizes that you're at, the power beaming companies, that there definitely were spin-off technologies and companies that were created directly at the moment. But even more for investors.
One of the companies that came out of the original Centennial Challenge competitions is now a giant multi-tens of millions in revenue a year, 40-50 person company up here in Seattle. So we know that tech translates into real world businesses, and where the elevator may be very speculative, the tech is not, and it has real world applications. So I've personally seen some pretty big things kind of grow out of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, the ideas and the things, very often, and this is just the nature of a lot of our competitors being university students, is they don't know how sometimes to take this and turn it into a company. And that's where, especially a VC or someone who understands the business side of it, can see an idea that was developed, and these people may not even be thinking of it turning into a company, and they're just doing it for the sake of the competition, and then actually push that forward. So yeah, this is definitely there. But you're right, yeah, Laser Motive or Starlight. So yeah.
Yeah. So your first competition's in November. Tell us about that. What's going on? What do you hope for? What do you expect? What's going on there?
Yeah. So we have about 10 teams at this one. It's a small style competition. It's just a regional event, just in Japan. For some teams there, we do have a couple of international teams coming. We're using it as a real learning point for us. It's about hosting these competitions, gaining from all that experience before we make the major push for the global competition next year. So it's just bringing everything together and doing this together as an organization as opposed to as individual separate companies.
Cool. 10 teams, are they all student teams, or are there industry teams also? Can you be an industry team?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have interest on that side, and definitely would love industry teams and or want industry teams. But currently, all these teams are universities. That's just it's the more standard, I guess, easier way to get in. Just because that's what they're doing. But if there is a specific technology, or again, with the power beaming, we are expecting a lot of more private and industry teams. For the climber, it's a little bit different. It's robotics.
Yeah. What's it take to win? What's the altitude? Is that kilometer and a half?
So 500 meters is 500 meters. So it's 150 feet about.
500, half a kilometer. All right.
Half a kilometer. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So half a kilometer for the first year. That's our launch year. Again, open to 1,000, but that's where we're officially launching it. And yeah, it's judged differently than the previous competitions. It's a ratio. So the team that performs the best is the winner. That's the one that gets awarded. They get the prize money, and that's how it goes. Different than the previous competitions where we're about developing a brand. Yeah.
The ratio is what? The ratio is how fast?
So it's based on speed. It's based on payload capacity. So how much payload it can carry. It's also based on the time that it takes to do that, and the size, the weight. So the ratio of the weight. The whole equation's in the rule book, but it's based on. So if you have a lighter climber that can carry a larger payload, that then it gets ratioed.
That's a good combination.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. So it's very well thought out. Again, this is using it from the previous experience. We're able to see what the best judging criteria is. But the goal is, as a competition, we're doing this continuously. We're not doing this to get a specific technology point. We're doing this to keep advancing this technology. And even once a space elevator exists, I'm sure we can always keep increasing and making it more efficient. So the technologies themselves will keep developing. So the way a competition works is that when one team has a breakthrough, everyone else goes beyond that, and that's basically scales up to technology level. So so year over year, we're going to keep increasing, but as a judging criteria, right? So that best team is going to be the winner, but then next year they're just going to be the baseline, and then that just
right. Yeah, that's the starting point for next year. Yeah,
basically, yeah. Which is again why it makes it specifically go for that winner. Yeah. So yeah, like we don't know when the space elevator will be built, and that's the push, and that's why we need to make sure that we keep pushing technology. Obviously, fields that we're looking into now that are both applicable to Earth and necessary for the space elevator are things like, obviously, you mentioned material strength. We also have motors, just motor development, in-space deployment, which is another one for tether deployment. I know there's some companies currently working on that, so that would be used, and again, super crucial for building an actual space elevator in the future. So our competitions are these global events.
Tom, your balloons go up 30,000 feet?
Oh, I mean our airships? They do have motors on them, so they're not balloons.
Yes. Okay, not balloons. Good, important correction.
Yeah.
Correction.
Loon had that, and they got in trouble, so they couldn't make it.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Our airships go up to an altitude of between 18 and 25 kilometers.
All right.
So 65 to 85,000 feet.
All right. So we need to get a string between the ground and your high altitude platforms so that Mordy can climb up and down. What's their lifting capacity? I'm not joking.
It's only 110 kilos. So So
That's fine.
we're pretty much full up. And so the string alone, trying to run a string for 25 kilometers, that's almost as heavy as the airship's
no,
carrying capacity. It has to fly independently. You can't tether it.
I think I can tether it. I think I can. I think we can do that. I'm not joking. I'm gonna make this little triangle work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I also think, like, again, as we get more materials, as we develop that side of it too, you know, that we can easily we can definitely lift something up. And
you have some kind of nano thread that's only, you know.
I don't even think
it needs.
we don't even need to move into the exotics. I think you can do it with Kevlar, Spectra, and Dyneema. 3 different materials can probably do it. And I'm gonna do some math on this. When we come back here, when we come back on the show with the 3 of us, I'm gonna have an answer for that. And Sean, that materials tug of war is what they did during the Centennial Challenges competitions back in 2005 to 2009. There were some companies, or some student teams, no companies, I don't think. I have some of the very first carbon nanotube threads from those days. You can break it with your fingers. Just chick, you can just break it. They were very sooty. They were very impure, and they would break at the easiest level. But they did have tug of wars, and no one was really close to winning back in those days. But there are some exotic materials that are available now that are looking pretty good. But I don't think we need exotic materials to do this tether. Maybe, Tom, we don't quite go so high, but you know, 5, 6, 7 kilometers would be a game changer. So that's what I'm going to work on. Yeah.
The reason we're at the altitude that we're at is because there's almost no wind up there. There's a layer of the atmosphere. There's almost no wind. And so it goes down to almost nothing. And we just aim the thing into whatever little wind is there. And that's what holds it in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's super good.
But you got to go up quite a ways to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so where do you see this going, Morty? I know as part of your overall, the long term, the 50,000 foot view business model of this, trying to try to revitalize this thing, you know, that was started by, you're standing on the shoulders of a giant right there, and you're trying to revitalize.
I was also standing on other giants. Yeah,
well, we are, but the point, I guess, is to start driving that as to a technology development funnel kind of thing. And you're going to get investors in there, and you're going to get all sorts of new people with all sorts of new stuff in there, and use this as a driver for, you know, a lot more innovation.
Yeah, 100%. So this is specifically focused on the space elevator and pushing it in a direction where we see innovation happening in all these industries independently, but there's nothing really pushing it. And so obviously pushing it toward a goal and allowing us to really see what works, doesn't work, and advance from there, we can lead ourselves to the best version of the space elevator. It's not just about building a Saturn V and just getting something up there. It's about making sure that when we put something up there, it's a great product and something that can really benefit everyone. So definitely that focus on the space elevator. Separately too, this is a model that we believe makes a lot of sense for projects of this scale, different than traditional R&D. It gives a lot of benefits for something that's multi-generational and on a large scale. So again, as this works, WSPEC could become an organization that pushes different technologies forward, also on this longer term scale. Again, this is the long ladder of growing ourselves. But one advantage that we have as competitions is we're functioning as a portfolio of bets. It's like venture capitalism, where you invest in an entire industry. If any of our companies become successful off of these technologies, what happens is, first of all, that raises up the whole competition, but it also proves that this kind of model works to develop stuff.
Right. You get some deal flow out of it. That would be a really good thing. And so, especially if you have technologies, especially in the area of energy and material science and a lot of things like that. It seems to me that there'd be a lot of spin out uses for those things, not just to build a space elevator, but all sorts of other things in the terrestrial tech economy that could make a lot of guys a lot of money either way. And so it seems to be a good way to go. You've given this huge pie in the sky. Yeah, let's go to the moon. Come on. But the people are showing up for building all this stuff because they like to see it happen too. But then somebody goes in and notices, hey, you could use this for this, and you can make a crap ton right now. And I'd like to write you a check and invest in you so you can do that. What do you think? And I still believe in your idea, but what do you think?
Yeah.
And so that's what you want to attract.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're building. Like I said, the heavy focus, we are functioning right now. We're not functioning when the space elevator is built, although we will hopefully function then too. But right now we need to make sure that we're developing technology that has benefits besides for just the eventual space elevator. Like I said, all the technologies that we're going to be pushing have to have real value, real value before the space elevator. Because again, we just can't predict that timeline, or we don't know for sure that timeline yet because of all this development. We're really creating a reason for this to just keep advancing toward this angle. But at the same time, because it's going to be developed by people in the world right now, by students or companies that are functioning currently, the advancements will be advancing whatever we currently have at that time, or whatever we currently have right now. So regardless of what the advancement is, it'll be pushing forward current technology. Now, the goal is that we're going to drive it in the direction of a space elevator. But yeah, ultimately technology is technology, and we'll learn by pushing this and seeing the results.
Okay. All right.
There's some wins that people aren't really. Oh, hang on. There's some. Everybody talks about the string, right? Because that's the obvious materials breakthrough. But you're going to find that you get breakthroughs in lubricants, sealants, filters, gripping surfaces. There's stuff that we completely take for granted that every car, every airplane, every hospital is dependent upon. You're going to get those kind of breakthroughs in this competition also. So everybody thinks the string is the answer. And yeah, the string is a really cool, I'll call it kind of a cool, sexy icon for this competition. But the sub technologies are super valuable also. And let's not forget, like, one of the outcomes here is you've got 10 teams. I'm going to make up a number and say that's 100 students. It's probably a bunch of other professionals, and that's an outcome also, is the students and the education piece, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like it's really a win-win. Like every person involved could benefit from the situation. Obviously, for students, it's development, really push yourself out there and prove what you can do. For universities, this just becomes a collaborative hub where we're pushing this technology forward. And for investors and companies, it's a forward-thinking idea. We're going to keep coming out with pushing advanced technologies and advancement, and also they're able to see this talent and potentially scout them or early noticing of the people that are practically building these technologies. It's definitely
earlier we talked about there's 4,000 people getting laid off by NASA, and maybe industry doesn't necessarily want to hire them, but maybe they do want to hire the kids working on elevators because they're creative, new technology. That might be a win for them. I just thought about that. Tom, you were going to ask a question?
No, I was just going to kind of get to an idea of where you are in actually the actual physical planning process for all of this. I know you've got, because to get this thing together, you got to have a plan, and you got to have someone to sponsor that plan. So, what's the progress on those two things? Just in loose terms. I know you can't get into detail.
Yeah, so I don't want to get into detail, but currently, in terms of the plan, I mean, we know everything we're doing. Like I said, we have a lot of experience with this, so we definitely developed that far. We obviously know how much money we need. We know what we actually need to do. We know how to plan these type of events. It's a little bit like you were talking about the location stuff. That's just stuff that we don't necessarily need to finalize just yet, and that's why we're still leaving that open for negotiations. In terms of sponsorships, we are in talks with multiple companies for sponsorship on this. But again, all in talks at the moment. Really pushing this. We're opening applications beginning of October. That's when for the 26th competition, where teams would then go there. Obviously, the planning on that is there's a multi-stage application process to that. We also have sponsorship tiers and sponsorship packages for that. I'm presenting in this weekend at the ISEC conference, so that's going to be the whole business case for it and explain that properly from a business side of what it is and what we're doing. But yeah, essentially it's we know what we have to do. It's doing it and making it happen. Yeah.
And just as an aside, stick around for a couple minutes after the show, because I might have a weird idea for a venue for you. It'll be a little tricky sell to this person, but I might have something. So let's talk about that, after the show. A few minutes left. Michael, what do you got? Anything more?
Well,
elevator guy, you should have 100.
So let's dig into I've had a lot of time to talk to Mordy.
Yeah.
We see some things in exactly the same rose-colored glasses, and some things we're never going to agree on. But I still I really hope that he's right and I'm wrong. So there's some partnerships that you're working on that you've told me privately that I'm not going to out, but think about what you can say about those partnerships, because I think that they're important and I think they're useful, and everybody wins when you get those sorts of relationships going. So can you say anything about that, or is it too soon to tell?
I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to stumble on anything.
I see the deer in the headlights.
There's a lot of stuff I'm very, very confident about, but just the general business rule, I try to not, until it's on paper, until we have not even a handshake. We have handshakes, and that's definitely, we're there. We just don't have, the legal documents written up or fully signed yet. Is the real part on a lot of this. So don't want to push names, but yeah,
I'm going through the same thing right now with something I'm working on. I can't talk about it until the ink is dry and the first check is cleared. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah. But really within the next. If you do want to follow the news,
we'll end with the question. We'll end with the question we always ask, which is, what does 5 years look like, and what does 25 years look like? Pull out your crystal ball.
Specifically about the space elevator. This, since that's something that we're pushing here, but
stick with the competition. Just the competition.
Okay. So in 5 years, I can see us. We've grown to hosting multiple regional events. I would say probably we're looking at adding about one category every 1 or 2 years. So I would say we probably have around 3 or 4 categories by then. In 5 years, over different things with, again, regional events and a global finalist competition with significantly more teams. I'd say around 100, 150 teams would be our aim by per competition by year 5. And then 25 years, I see us having developed many of the technologies to a final point where we can be very sure that this is what it's going to be like for the space elevator. And then even beginning that early construction of that. So maybe even scaling these WSPEC competitions to a new, increasing it and saying, okay, now we're going to work on space solar power or,
Well, That's what the X Prize
utilization
did,
something.
right? The X Prize Foundation branched into a whole bunch of different topics, not just space stuff. So you guys are copying a very proven model, very
Absolutely.
successful.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And on
Nice
that,
job.
we have to move. But Mordy Friedman from, what's it called again? Etheria Space. Thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to having you back again to cover this always interesting topic.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Next week on Monday, our guest will be Colleen McLeod Garner, who's a specialist in helping companies craft compelling go-to-market strategies, building strong customer narratives, and positioning their brands for relevance in the rapidly expanding and, dare I say, $625 billion space economy. As always, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, next Thursday night, I will not be here because I will be at a 5-day marketing conference where I'm pitching the center right and left in Orlando. But Michael and Sean will be here, and our guest next Thursday will be none other than Rich Godwin, serial entrepreneur, investor, developer of alternative energy, and just an all-around good guy. He's a joy to talk to, and you'll love seeing him. So be there then too. And from the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance for Michael Lane and Sean Key, this is Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.